Okay, great. Welcome everyone to our second quarterly Girls to Women Mentoring Hawaii board meeting. We're glad that you're here and we're glad that you're listening on the recording. And we're going to just start with those who are present just by introducing yourself, just saying your name and just checking in with maybe just a couple feelings, how you're doing today. We just love to hear from you. So I'll start. I'm Shakti, and I am feeling excited in this moment and happy and content. And with that, I'm in, and I'll pass the baton to Allison.
Hi, my name's Allison. I'm Jermaine from Hululu side. I am the acting vice president of Girls to Women. I'm feeling excited about how beautiful it is outside, as I had already said, and to be here and to connect with a new face, and as well as have Anjali back on the call. And with that, I'm in.
And why don't we go to Mirabai next.
Aloha, everybody. I am in San Francisco right now. I'm sorry I was late. I'm a little just placed in time and space right now. I'm feeling joyful and excited to be on the call. And I will pass it to Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandra. I'm feeling happy to be here and curious. And also overwhelmed and sad because I lost my mom about a week ago, and I've got to leave early actually today to go deal with details regarding that. But I am happy to be here.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And Anjali.
Yes, aloha, ladies. I'm Anjali, and I'm checking in. I am on the east side of the island. I'm currently sitting in the Keau shelter for the evacuees from the volcano, and I'm here to give introductory talks on TM for the people. So I'm feeling excited and a little displaced myself, and really happy to be on this call for this great idea. I think it's an awesome idea. So with that, I'm in.
All right. Well, thank you all. And I don't think I stated my role on this board is that I am the secretary, and also Mirabai is the president. And we're having a little bit of change right now in terms of the role of the treasurer. We have invited Sandra in to fulfill that role. And we've really appreciated what Mary has done so far, and we're going to be looking at transitioning Mary as the treasurer to Sandra. So just kind of wanted to announce that. And
Do we need to vote that in now?
Yeah, I guess we can vote that. We didn't formally sit, Mirabai and Allison and I are on the governance committee, and we've kind of worked out, we've kind of informally done it, but we could now do it formally. Yeah.
Okay. I will propose the election of Sandra to treasurer.
Okay. And I second it.
Sure.
All those in
All
favor
right.
of Sandra being the treasurer can say aye.
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 Okay, great.
Happy to be on board.
Thank you. So it's passed.
That was easy.
Ash, she mistakenly selected people to come this morning. She didn't realize she said yes. She's unable to come.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, Ash, we look forward to connecting with you when you listen to this.
All right. We were hoping to have 6 people, but now we only have 5. I don't know if that matters, but here we are. So why don't we just carry on? Mirabai, do you have the agenda actually in front of you, by you?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So we were going to actually have you go next with I mean, the first thing was about the impact of the volcano. Were you gonna?
Yes, I can talk about that. So I think we're all acutely aware of the recent events, and that has certainly sort of influenced, you know, the momentum and availability of what we were planning to do. And I just wanted to acknowledge it's been a while since you've heard from Girls to Women, but in the background, we, Shakti, Allison, and I have been meeting pretty much on a weekly basis and doing a lot of the foundational work to move us forward. So, you know, it may have seemed quiet, but we have been, you know, moving on and taking steps to give us the groundwork. And, you know, we're excited to just like hold space and invite people in to move us forward.
Great. And how about you tell them a little bit more about the some of the documentation that we've been working on in the governance committee. So the three of us have been working together, and specifically there's a couple items that you probably want to tell them about the bylaws and the conflict of interest statement.
Yeah, so we have now got an official set of bylaws, which we need people to vote on and approve. And also something that's required for nonprofits is to have a conflict of interest statement. So we have a policy about that everybody needs to read and sign. And shall I talk about the other things we've done?
Sure. And I'm a little bit confused whether we were wanting to actually accept those bylaws. We sent out in my first email, we did send out a link to the bylaws and to the conflict of interest statement. But I'm not clear whether we were going to approve them or not in this meeting, or are we just reporting what we've done?
I think ideally we would approve them, but I'm not sure if we can if we only have 5 people on the call.
Okay.
Allison will know this answer to this question. I think we can if it's a majority, or we can't because we don't have a quorum.
For approving the bylaws?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't state in our bylaws, but I'm sure it would be most beneficial if we have everyone here and connecting about it, so we know that everyone's read it and approved. We don't have the majority here, so it's hard to know.
So why don't we do that by email, because
Okay.
we said in our bylaws conveniently that we can vote on things by email.
Okay, great. I'll just make a note of that.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
So our big exciting news is that we now have a fiscal sponsor. And what that means, for everybody that doesn't know, is that you've heard of the 5013C status, which means that people can get tax write-offs when they donate to you. So we are a registered nonprofit corporation. We're registered as a charity now in the state of Hawaii, and we now have a fiscal sponsor. And basically what that means is this is an organization who has a 5013C, and we are under their umbrella so that we can now accept donations that are tax deductible. for people. So that's very exciting news.
Awesome. Who is that organization nearby?
They're called Triangle Consulting. They're a national organization based in North Carolina, and their sole purpose is to empower nonprofits and to be a fiscal sponsor. So they consult at very discounted rates and provide fiscal sponsorship.
That's awesome. Oh, that's just awesome.
Yeah, we're all super excited. I feel like this was a critical, a pivotal moment in our development to have this opportunity to work with these with this organization, and I'm super stoked about it too.
Yeah, and we've also have an EIN number, and we are ready to open a bank account. We just put a pause on that because of our treasurer transition. And we do have a check from our first initial Facebook fundraiser to deposit, and that's some of the governance stuff we've been. Oh, we've also created safety policies. So we've been doing some of the behind-the-scenes things that we will need to actually get out there in schools. We've got quotes on liability insurance. So we're getting our ducks in a row. It's kind of the non-glamorous stuff. And I know everybody is really excited and inspired to get out there in the schools. But we've also been using this time to really think about the best way to do this. Having conversations about, and I think we'll get into that, like how we can really research what the needs are instead of just imposing them. How we can, make this sustainable and the most effective it can be.
And I think another element to what the governance committee has been doing is working on a business plan. And yes. Especially, I've helped out a little bit, but really Allison and Mirabai have been really plugging away on that. So this is a little bit, we're skipping in our agenda, but I think it fits into what we're talking about right now. So I think I'd like Allison for you just to talk about what we have accomplished in the business plan and maybe what's left, if you'd like to bring that up now.
Yeah, I'll go over that. So when we initially thought, let's create a business plan, it was for the purpose of giving to possible fiscal sponsors. Well, now we have a fiscal sponsor, and it wasn't required for us to have the completion of the business plan. So I'd say it's about 75% complete. Our intention now, I think this will be it'll be really purposeful to have this business plan complete as we begin to think about fundraising. So we can show this plan to people that want to. And so parts that are still left on it involve fundraising, and that's kind of what's next ahead of us. I'm kind of jumping ahead to talking about our next steps, but fundraising is involved in that now that we have our 501c3 status. So on the business plan, there's still room for development on our fundraising strategy and our financial plan. Another part that we haven't completed yet is just sharing management. You
broke up a bit there, Allison.
Okay. I'm not sure the last thing that.
Another part we've completed is.
Oh, okay. No, what we still have yet to complete is the strategy and implementation summary of fundraising, and then a financial plan, and then also a management summary to summarize how our management looks, like what it looks like. Otherwise, the rest of the business plan is for the most part done. There are some loose ends that need tied up. This business plan has been really crucial in guiding us into knowing what our missing gaps are. And so the loose ends are like, what are we going to have peer mentorship look like? And when is that going to come into place? And just like little fine details that we still need to work on to describe how Girls to Women is going to function, which is also in transition because we're going to start with a pilot study, as Shakti is about to talk about, before we do an official launch. So the business plan is thinking about more the official launch, yet we're also planning a pilot study first.
And I just wanted to add, the other reason for the business plan is so that we can apply for grants.
Yes, yeah.
And that's also an advantage of having a fiscal sponsor, because grantors like to know that you have like an additional layer of oversight. So that's another plus.
Shakti, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm imagining that some of you on the board might want to view the business plan as we're creating it and fine-tuning it and finishing it. And especially as a treasurer, you probably, want to see our accounting and everything. And so we can make that available to you to see our draft. I'm not sure if we want to send it out to everyone or just have you request. If you want to see it, let us know, and then we'll send it to you. Maybe something like that.
Before we move on to the pilot, Alison, do you want to talk about some of the things that we might want people to volunteer to help with or research for that?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, we're gonna do that after we go over.
Okay, at the end. Okay,
so
sure.
far. It's kind of like another section.
Cool. I did want to add, though, we completed our budget. It's open to shifting, but what we have right now on the business plan for our budget, we have our startup expenses coming to $1,100, and that includes legal costs, a branding package, web hosting, and then our initial operation expenses coming to like assessment tools, board of directors, insurance, trainings, supplies, background check, insurance, stationery, printing, office, ongoing bookkeeping. We have that one to $6,300 or $6,335. But we're excited to welcome Sandra on, who might be interested in working with us on our budget. So.
Great. Thank you for that. And yeah, so I think I'll go into a little bit about our timeline and how we're deciding that we want to focus. And this has been kind of a juggling act for all of us, and just deciding where and when we want to start. Our newest, the place where the three of us have come to most recently, is this. We have this idea of wanting to do kind of a pilot program. We had originally talked about, and we're still considering, focusing in the beginning in 1 to 2 schools. So we had talked about starting up in Honoka'a and Pahoa, and we're still interested in that, but we know for sure that we like the idea of getting into a school and, getting experience. And so that's where the word pilot comes on, because we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but when we actually need to get in there and we want to see what works and what doesn't work. And so that's our idea of doing a pilot program. And the Hawaii Academy of Arts and Science, HAAS, has definitely shown a lot of interest. There's already a boys to men mentoring program there, and they've been doing that for at least a year now. So they have kind of actively initiated to us, and so we're responding to them. And our timeline at this moment is we're thinking of starting at least in Haas in January of 2019. And we just, we contemplated doing it in August, but it feels like it's a little bit too much of a push right now, just with the lava flow. And so that feels more spacious, because there's some things that we want to do between now and actually initiating the pilot program. And so part of what we're wanting to do is it's involved in getting mentors. And one of our ideas that we have is to hook up with the university and somehow get mentors through the university, whether it's the psychology department or the social services or women's studies, so that perhaps they can help us with some of the research that we want to do, and also that perhaps they could even get credits for being a mentor. So that's one of our ideas. And I actually, in the last week, I hooked up with somebody who works for women's studies at the U of H. And so that might be a possibility for us.
I just want to clarify, that's not to exclude anybody who's interested in mentoring, but it's a way of us, because we are sort of involved with Boys to Men and seeing how they work. We're looking at where the challenges are, in actually doing this. And one of the things when you have all volunteers, with lives, is to make sure you have the mentors showing up. So one, great plus about using like interns who are doing it for university credit is there's a level of commitment, that means there's sort of foundational people we can count on, which takes some of the pressure off other mentors if life stuff comes up, and that is less stressful for whoever is lead facilitating to know, I have a group tomorrow and I need not to be running it by myself. And the other thing I want to mention is that we've been also talking to Boys to Men in Virginia. They are very active in starting Girls to Women there. So we've been having conversations with them. And want to have some meetings with them so that we are sharing great ideas and coming up with best practice, and also looking at how do we turn this into a brand that works anywhere.
Great.
Yeah, great. And so related to this timeline, our idea is that if we start in January of 2019, specifically in Haas, and there's a possibility we could start in Honoka'a too, if we attract enough mentors and do a training for them, then we're talking about officially launching in August of 2019. So we're seeing January as the pilot study where we're gonna, and we want to set up some research so that we can actually evaluate and see what kind of results we're having. So we'd like to have some kind of pre-test and post-test for the girls that are going through it, something like that, and then eventually, have some testimonies from the pilot program that we can use in marketing.
And that's also, although this is going to be a very kind of small study, it'll be qualitative, like we'll find out, what works, but we're going to be thinking about, and how do we roll that forward, because one of the things I think is going to be really important for long-term future for this program is to have data, to have a big enough sample and have data, because that will also help us get money to fund this in the future. If we can actually show that, various things were affected, whether it's attendance or self-esteem or, depression or teen pregnancy. We're looking at all those variables of, how we can show that what we're going to do is effective in tangible ways that will attract dollars.
Yeah, also, we've been contemplating and talking amongst past board meetings, like the last big board meeting we had, we talked about curriculum, and then within our governance committee, we've been that topic's come up a lot. Do we want to do curriculum in our program? And so we discussed it this week, and we decided that doing a pilot study, it feels less fit for curriculum, and instead having the pilot study feed us information on how we can build a future curriculum. But for right now, we're going to steer from the curriculum and stick with a modeling and mentoring model. And so what that looks like is, so with curriculum, we were thinking, okay, we'd be teaching a curriculum with themes. And with the modeling and mentoring, you can still get creative and have like a themed circle about like self-love, but less as like a teaching, and it could be more like a prompting. So an example would be, say you had your circle outside at the school and there's a large garden. You could go on a medicine walk through a garden, everyone go on a walk and give a prompt. Like, in what ways do you show yourself love? And then the students and the mentors can walk around and think about that question and then come together and people can talk about it. So more just like prompting, and then the modeling and mentoring comes from the mentors then sharing their processes in a way that's honestly more matured, because we're older and we've come through it and we've developed tools. And when we describe our tools and talk about our processes out loud, we are mentoring and guiding others who struggle to love themselves.
And I think it's kind of really sort of important to note, and when we were discussing the curriculum question, this came up in our meeting, because curriculum like is an education word, you know, it's about teaching. And so maybe rather than, if we do a curriculum, it's maybe more like a values-based thing, because what we want to do is not be teachers. We want to be like seeing the girls as whole and encouraging them to connect to their wisdom, rather than we're here to teach you how to do something. So it's kind of a like a whole person, whole woman model, like even as girls, it's like holding space for them. And the other reason for not starting out with what we think they might need to know or want to learn about is just to hold that space to see what's present for them. What do they want to talk about? How do we, so our goal really is to create the container where they feel safe and able to share the things that they would like to share.
Okay. What are they doing? Do they have a curriculum in any of the other Girls to Women programs
No,
that you said on the East Coast? No. Okay.
No, they're just starting, but they're using the Boys to Men model, which is not a curriculum. It's like a circle, holding space for what's there. Well, they do activities.
Right.
Yeah, but we're still open to building a curriculum in the future after we experience the pilot study and get a feel for what it's like to work with the teenage population on this island. And there's definitely a benefit of having curriculum and tying all of those pieces together. So there's a future for it. We're open to a future for it, but just starting out, sticking with mentoring and modeling is what we've decided to do.
And maybe the curriculum per se will be something about looking at what skills or tools build or contribute the things that we're hoping to offer them, like what are skills or tools we would teach that give them resilience or emotional literacy or self-esteem.
So then when the group is being run, how long is the group and how often?
Well, I mean, that really depends on the school, but generally, you know, as I understand what's happening in Boys to Men, specifically in Haas, their periods, I think, are only about 45 minutes, and generally it's weekly. What we haven't actually decided yet is, are we going to do it for a whole semester, or is the pilot program going to be just 8 weeks? So that's something, I mean, the way Boys to Men right now is in Haas and other schools is that they go like the school year does. They go by semester. They do a whole semester, so it's a weekly thing. But we're not decided on that. Basically, I'm wanting to speak to the teachers at Haas to see if it's even possible to do it for a smaller amount. But are you asking specifically for yourself in terms of thinking of yourself as a mentor and what might be expected of you? Is that kind of your question, or just
No, I'm talking in terms of the program, because from my experience as a teacher and a life coach and mentor in other areas, I'm just trying to apply my experience to this particular situation. And so I was curious how often and for how long, because that changes what you're going to be doing during the meeting. Because if it's a short meeting, there's only certain things that can be done. If it's longer, and time goes by so fast. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that does affect it. And also we're affected by how many students are there too. So those are definitely factors that are really important. And we should mention here too that while we're starting off with the pilot program in the schools, definitely in our business plan, we have aspirations for doing outside of school, doing workshops, day workshops, weekend workshops. So this is just, we're starting here, and yes, it's going to be a shorter period. You know, it definitely is going to be 45 minutes to an hour. We'll have that chunk, and it'll be weekly. Yeah.
Right. And then there's after school programs. So, I was just, I'm trying to figure out, because talking about not having a curriculum would be, and I just think there's a lot to be said about having something that can be shared if you're doing more than one school also, or a girls to women suggested progression, because you can start one way with the group and end another way. Because when you start, it's very different because you don't know anybody. And as you progress along, the girls get to know each other, and then intimacy begins to be established. So all of this needs to be taken into consideration when we're designing the program.
It would be awesome to have your input on that. So one of the things we talked about is, even if there is no curriculum per se, we would want to build a I don't know what we're calling it, but like a toolkit or a a thing that you can pick and pull from. Here's an exercise, and that would build into that. So even if it's not,
beautiful. Yeah, you could have a notebook and have exercises, and because sometimes I know when I've had a curriculum, I look at, well, I'm supposed to do this next, but it doesn't fit in with the group. This particular exercise fits in better. So it's nice to have a book with options and suggestions. Hey, it's good to start this way or end this way, and then in the middle, then so I'm thinking in terms of curriculum and layout of the day, because that's where I come in. I would think that I could help with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think the school, I think you are mentoring.
I'm sorry,
hold on,
Sandra.
I'm sorry, but I need to step out now, so thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yes, thank you, Sandra.
We'll be thinking of you.
Thank you.
So we're going to do mentor trainings, and I think that would be a time where we talk about the toolkit and develop a toolkit. And I think, Anjali, it would be really great to have you as we plan those mentorship trainings and offer tools that you already implement and do in your work to be a part of training.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great.
And I think that one of the things that I'd like to look at when we get to this point of mentor training is maybe there'll actually be more curriculum in the mentor training than the Voice to Men model, because right now they don't do that much training. I mean, at all. But I think that I could see it being really valuable to have some of our training be to go over, here's the different activities, here's the exercises, here's how you know when to do what. And, I think that, Angela, you'd be awesome with that too.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
that would be something that we would, an incentive for us to get together, at least a basic toolbox with
Yeah.
a variety of activity. Then, I mean, that just seems to be like a really good stepping stone for us. So for us to create that, and then that'll happen before the training. So that seems perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And one thing I
Perfect.
want
And
to bookmark here is because, like, I'm on the Boys to Men USA board, and they're in this unique position of trying to come in as a national organization over existing regions. Anyway, so, but one of the things that comes up for them is where do they get the money from? And one of the things that, you know, I was talking about in the strategy for them was, like, they need to build value. Like, why should members, organizations pay them? And the value in terms of information and best practice. But I think that we should also look at what we create being something we can monetize, you know? So if we do create a toolkit that we have the copyright, that we can sell, that we have a, you know, and Shakti, it'd be great if you want to tell us at some point more about the self-love program, but why not look at this, what we create, as being information products that we license or franchise to people, which would also get the word out, but it would be a revenue source other than donations.
Yeah, awesome.
And you've already got experience in that, Anjali, because you've published a textbook.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Which I would really like to get a copy of, actually, if you can email on how to do that.
Okay. All right, for sure. I got that on my list. Putting it down right now.
So what next?
I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that Ash and Kahea reached out to several schools on the Big Island about whether they already have girls programs there and what their interest level is. And we heard back from 3 schools, and it was Konawaina who showed immense interest, Kohala Middle School, and Haas. So that was through their outreach, but we've also, we've been in contact with Haas outside of that as well, so that's how we know that they're very interested. And so it'd be nice if we could follow up with the schools again after our pilot study and present them with what we've done and just continue to get our program out there. And
and I also,
where are those schools?
Listening to this, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, and I also want to just
Where are they?
Hold on one sec. I just want to appreciate Ashley and Kahea for the spreadsheet.
Yes,
did a really nice job of organizing it with all the schools and the contacts. So we have that to follow up on. We have the names and the contacts and the numbers, and that's really helpful. And it's helpful to know what's going on in the other schools. So thank you for that work.
Also, Ash, Kahea, and Shakti did a collaborative outreach template to send to schools or anybody interested in knowing more, and so, or that we're trying to reach out to. So thank you for doing that as well.
So Anjali, Konawaina is in Captain Kirk.
Okay.
Kohala is in Kohala.
Kohala.
And
Yeah, where I live.
Yeah.
And then,
Haas is in Pahoa.
oh, Haas.
And we also had, we had we had an informal response from Honeka'a too.
Oh,
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Kendra isn't on this call, but hey, Kendra, if you're listening, I want to say we were very excited to meet you. Kendra used to run a girls program at Haas, and she did all the fundraising for it. And she also works for Eileen O'Hara's office and told us about grants. And she's been incredibly busy with the eruption, but we're really looking forward to, connecting with her again. Because she's already done this in the school and is a phenomenal woman.
Great.
Any other updates on what we've been up to before I move on to what's ahead of us?
Just that we've researched, background checks, getting a system for that, which is essential.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Yeah, we have a company to do the background checks, but we're in kind of a catch-22. We have to open up a bank account, and we actually have to get insurance first before we can apply for the background checks. But once that's in place, then we'll want to have all the board members do a background check, and it's a really simple online thing to do. So we'll let you know when that's all in place and ready to go.
Great.
All right.
Right, so moving on to what lies ahead. So what's next? And an invitation for board members' involvement. So as we had already discussed, Shakti had mentioned that we would like to connect with the University of Hawaii Hilo or Kona-based campus, and we're seeking mentors that are majoring in like psychology, education, social work, counseling. So we're looking for a university liaison to reach out to those schools and see what ways they'd like to be involved, their students would like to be involved. So if anybody already has a connection or knows somebody in the social work program, psychology program, women's studies, yeah, we're looking for a liaison for that. Also, we talked about bringing a survey to Haas at the start of the school year to hear what the students would like the mentorship circle to hold. So first, just like starting out, hearing from them. So if anybody would like to collaborate and work on a survey that we could send out to the students. Also, now that we have our 501c3 status and we're transitioning to Sandra being our treasurer. We've got fundraising planning just ahead, and I believe Ash is the only member on the fundraiser committee. And so if anybody else would like to volunteer and collaborate, I know I am happy to collaborate as we begin planning fundraisers. And we talked about documents we will need. So we're going to need to have documents that show that we have the 501c3 status to present to those that are donating. But that might come from our fiscal sponsor. I'm not sure if we can connect with them and they already have those documents prepared. I'm not sure, but that's something before we begin. Yeah, and that's what I've got. And then Mirabai has you next, speaking about how we're growing and evolving and outreach for additional board members.
Wow.
Okay.
What am I going to say about that?
Did you say?
Yeah.
I think basically we're just talking about how we are still open and wanting to expand our board, and
Yes.
we really want to get people on our board who are inspired to be here and who have connections. We want to be expansive, and so we want to just maintain that if there are people that you know in the community who could be an asset to us, we would welcome their names and we would like to invite them to a meeting.
Great. What were you going to say, Anjali?
I would be willing to help out on the fundraising committee, to be one of the people doing that. I couldn't be the only person, but, I'd like to join a team of people that would be working on that, because I think that needs a team. It can't just have one or two people. That's so major. It needs a lot of creativity and people that are willing to talk to people. And I'm good at talking to people. I'm not as good with computer stuff, but I'm good with connecting with people. So you can add me to that list.
All right.
I mean, and the other thing is that it might be the case that, we really can't do anything as, even get the background checks until we have the money for the insurance. So I'm not going to say that
Right.
fundraising committee is mandatory for everybody, but nothing else is going to happen until we get at least that $4,000 in for the liability insurance or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
we may all have to
4,000.
I can't remember exactly what it is, but Allison knows.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true, because that is a in terms of our creating our priorities, that's something that's important, is to get that insurance in place, at least for the background checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just generally speaking, I want everyone to know on the board that while you may have signed up for one committee, whether it was marketing or whether it was mentorship or maybe it was curriculum, we're all aware that we're all changing and our needs are changing, and where you are in the world may be changing and your schedule may be changing, and that's all fine. And we really just want you to be able to participate in any way that you can, that like whatever your heart is calling you to do, we welcome you to join us. And we recognize that, your schedule may have changed. And so we'd love for each of you to revisit, either the committee that you originally signed up for or like joining another one like Anjali is doing. That would be really, really awesome to hear from each of you about your desires and how you'd like to participate.
And also in terms of mentoring, because, from when we started to now talking about January a lot has changed, and just everybody to check in with what their availability and interest is, if you can predict that far ahead.
Right.
And nothing is set in stone.
Gotcha.
I feel like it's like kind of a big exhale right now. We've gotten a huge bulk of the foundation work done in the last 6 months, I'd say, maybe longer. And now I feel like it's time that we're really beginning to immerse in the community and having these teams of people to come together to create fundraisers to make this happen. And I'm really excited that the opportunity is really beginning for all of us to come together and collaborate.
And I want to say this for myself as much as for anybody else, but I'd like to put it out there that it's going to be really easy to raise that money.
Yes.
And I mean, it could just be a GoFundMe and it could happen overnight, or it could be just going out to 3 people in the community. I think let's just hold the vision that that's sort of effortless and we zoom on ahead.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge that for me in this process, I have to say that the governance committee, it really wasn't my first choice or something that I really wanted to sign up for. Actually, I think I signed up on all the other committees and I didn't the governance one. And then I was watching Allison and Mirabai and they just like had so much to do. So it's like, I kind of like made myself go forward on it. And it's definitely not my forte, but I have to say that there's been magic happening just by the 3 of us meeting, and kind of I think we're all in the same boat. For some reason, it's none of our forte, and yet we're growing and stretching. And so that's what I want to just kind of reiterate or infuse, that this can be fun, and that there's something about us all having this intention together, that I think that we all share a common desire to help empower girls and to bring them together. I know for me, it's because I didn't have that as a girl. And I, when I think back, I wish I did. And so I'm hoping that the creativity and the flow and the ease that we're experiencing, I'm hoping to pass it on to the others in the board, and that our energy is going to magnetize out there in the world. And really looking forward to be able to, to seeing circles, seeing girls thrive.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that, Shakti, because I had no interest whatsoever in any of the stuff that we've been doing. And in fact, this all came about because, you know, Jason kept saying to me, boys, they, you know, they really need girls to women. They really need girls to women. And I was like, well, I'm sure they do, but like I've got way too much on my plate. I have no desire whatsoever to start some school program that's a whole lot of admin, blah, blah, blah. I'll just do like a Zoom call or something for initial interest, and then here we are. But yeah, so I'd like to say, don't just volunteer for the things that you think you're already good at, because actually we amazingly doing all this stuff. I mean, every single call that we check out of, you know, we just talked about this yesterday. We all really enjoy working on it, and it's really satisfying and fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true.
All right.
Just one more thing on our list of outreach to within our board of where we could use assistance or expertise, and that's with website logo design, flyers, brochures. I know that a lot of the women on this board are here because we share the common interest in working with women and teenage girls, or we already are or have been. And so if anybody else would like to contribute to the toolbox for trainings, that is another thing we'd like to invite.
Yeah, that's good. And I don't think we specifically stated this too. We kind of mentioned it as we're passing, but we are wanting to create a survey once we're starting our pilot program. Once we're in there, we want to survey the students around their needs and interests. And so we're actually going to need help in creating that survey. So if that's something that interests you too, you can let us know.
And Anjali, I'd really like to, you know, hear more from you on your experience and how you created your curriculum for your book and all of that and what that speaks to. I think, you know, you have a lot of amazing expertise to share.
Thank you, Mirabai, and I would love to share that so we can decide.
Can you just
when
explain to everybody else about it, because I don't know that. Can you just tell people what it is?
Well, I wrote a book called The Conscious Education Project, 21 Qualities to Create a Dynamic Learner. And I picked 21 qualities that I felt young people from the ages of more like 7 to 16, that they would be really powerful individuals if they became more comfortable and understood those qualities. And the qualities range from understanding how to communicate with other people, like communication is one of the qualities. Humility is one of the qualities. Well begun is almost done. So I picked those 21, and then 21 specific qualities, and then I designed 4 to 6 exercises to do. Another one is inner silence, meditation, and prayer. Every action has a reaction. And I have hands-on projects, I have group projects, I have one-on-one writing. So I have a curriculum for the mentor, and I have a curriculum for the students, actually. Well, it's the same curriculum, but I changed it a little bit for the students so they could write in the book and do writing exercises. And I'm using this curriculum myself in an after-school program that I'm doing in Javi during the school year. And I have a school in California, and I'm marketing it on homeschool website also, and of course on my website. So
that is awesome.
That's kind of a short version of that. It took me 2 years to write it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So shall we check out? Is there anything else?
Do you have any questions, Anjali?
No, sounds good. Everything's really great. It's so exciting, and I love this project, and I'm here as much as I can be, besides doing, you know, the other things I do. And it's kind of like a number one priority for me, because I feel as a woman, you know, I have alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune condition where I don't have hair. And when I lost my hair, I was so devastated. I had no one to help me. Now, at least I had meditation and that helped. But the whole self-image and, really helping girls to know where their beauty comes from and to know how to handle life. That's kind of one of my personal goals in life, is to help women to be more powerful and more at peace. And so I love this project.
I also want to mention that Shakti is an expert and facilitator in self-love for girls and women. And Allison worked at Pacific Quest and she is an expert in creative rites of passage for teenagers. Just while we're talking about the amazing people we have here.
Yeah, that's great. And I love working with all of you and learning and hearing all the different ideas that everybody has and how people step forward. And like you were saying, Mirabai, sometimes we do things that we don't think we can do, or that we're just not drawn to. And that's happened to me. Like, I'm negotiating my way around, the east side of the island, and I know nothing about it, all alone, giving talks. And, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it stretches us. And when we're stretched, that's when we grow. So I agree with what you were saying, Mirabai, about, maybe you'll step in and do a government, help out in the government area.
Yay. Great. Thanks for sharing all that. Well, we lost Mirabai's picture. I think she's maybe still here. I'm not sure what happened there, but I guess we're good to close out for now. Yeah, so thank you all for coming. And do you have any last words, Allison?
I just keep thinking that it's what an asset you are, Anjali, to this program, and I'm just really excited to be connected with you, and I look forward to collaborating.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think I'm very excited about all of us here, and yeah, I look forward to it. Onward, ladies.
Onward.
All right.
And hopefully next time I can be on a Zoom call. And the reason I'm on my phone is because I am traveling right now and I don't have an internet connection. I could if I went back to where I'm staying, but I'm out now. So hopefully we can see each other next time.
Well, thank you for zooming in and making this a priority on your Saturday. Well, you've got a busy day, so thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all very much.
All right. And thank you all for listening to the recording, and we'll stay in contact via email. So just wish you all well and take care.
Okay, we closing now?
Yeah, we're
ending?
closing. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
Aloha.